Hi, everybody. I am Annie Kantor. I am the founder of Modern Metal, and I am also the design director. And I'm here today with Marissa, our project manager. And I'm thrilled to be here. I'm thrilled to be a part of this wonderful virtual fellowship. And honestly, it's a pinch me moment for me in my career because I remember being exactly your age in school. I was at RISD, Rhode Island School of Design, and they would bring in leaders in the industry to expose us to different paths that we could take, different types of jobs. And to me, these were pivotal for me. I remember Hazel Siegel and Mark Pollock, and these were eventually people I ended up working with. So thank you for being a part of this today. It is a highlight for me as a designer and as an entrepreneur. I am so excited to be able to share my path with you and hopefully impart some of the knowledge that I've learned by starting and running my own company. And also to be a part of this organization, Be Original Americas, which I believe in so strongly. And I feel as a designer in the industry and as you as students that it's our collective responsibility to stay original and true to design. And so to be a part of this organization and this fellowship is really, really meaningful to me. I try to incorporate that motto of original design in everything we do here at Modern Metal. I want to tell you a little bit about my company. I started this company about 5 years ago, actually launched by Beth Dickstein in New York in 2015. Since then, it's been just a wild roller coaster full of excitement, and I'm having so much fun. It is a dream to be running your own, to have your own business and run your own company. But today I'm also going to share the behind the scenes with you. I think it's really important for you to know what actually goes into it. There are glamorous parts to it, but a lot of nitty gritty. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So our session today is divided into 3 parts. The first part is going to be exposing you to Modern Metal, our team. I'm going to show you some photos of what we do and what we make, and so that you understand the product that we put out there. But the real meat of this session is going to be in part 2, where we walk you through a project of ours from start to finish. And the reason I want to share this process of running through a project with you is because it touches on so many different aspects: marketing, our design process, fabrication, all these parts that go into running a company, running a small company. And then lastly, the third part will be exposing you to the many hats that we wear here at Modern Metal, and showing you some of the disasters and mistakes we've made. I want to share those with you because I think they're actually the most important, and you will learn from them as we have. So let's dive in and get started here. What you can see here on this slide, this is our product. We design laser cut metal. So I use my textile design background to design patterns in metal, and we make grills and architectural panels. So first I want to introduce you to our team. Modern Metal has 3 people working here. It's me, it's Marissa, who is our project manager, and it is Susan Wyman, who is our National Director of Sales. And before you watch this short video they're going to be introducing themselves to you. I'm choosing to show this to you because I want you to see that we all came from many different avenues, and there's so many different paths that you can take to get where you will end up. And it's okay. I was in law school, and I ended up designing in metal, so who knew? So I just want to emphasize that to you, that people start in many different directions and paths. Hi, I'm Annie Kantor, the founder of Modern Metal and Director of Design.
Hi, I'm Susan Wyman. I'm Sales Director at Modern Metal. My name is Marissa Connors, and I am the project manager here at Modern Metal. I studied fashion design and merchandising.
I have a BFA in textile design from Rhode Island School of Design. My focus there was on wovens and knits.
I was a printmaking major in college with a dual degree in art history, and then I got a degree in fashion design. So then I went to UCLA, their extension program for interior design, and did interior design for quite a long time.
I decided when I graduated to focus on wovens for the commercial fabric industry. So I went into the field of contract fabrics, and I worked designing weave structures and patterns for textile companies.
Interior design came a little bit later. A woman who I didn't even really know, I did her entire house for free, and then segued to manufacturing with a company in the outdoor furniture world and came to Modern Metal.
When I first started working, I was working at Stitch Fix as a personal stylist, and I always thought maybe I would do something with styling. But when the opportunity came along to work with Annie, I thought I've always loved interior design, so I thought it was a great opportunity.
What is my biggest accomplishment? I feel really good about my team. So there you go, that's us and 3 women, and I do love my team. And just so you know, to show you how we are still growing, Marissa started off 10 hours a week, and she just last month became full-time with medical benefits. So it takes a long time to grow, and we are still growing. Okay, how did Modern Metal start? This is a textile that I designed, and I was remodeling my own house, and something made me decide that I could translate textile design into metal. And the outcome was this grill in our home. So I translated that design into metal. My architect saw this. These are the vent covers that you see in homes. And he said, this is really cool. You could sell these. So it took me 2 years from this point to be comfortable enough putting my name on the back of the product. Also, I just want to share with you what HVAC means. The HVAC is heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. So this is a word I never thought I would care about. I still don't really care about it that much, but it's something that we need to know because this is what my business is about. Our design philosophy is basically ugly grills have got to go. We want to change the landscape of design by making these vent covers more exciting, inspiring, and adding a unique design detail to a home or office space. And here I'm just going to show you a few photos of some of the designs we've done. Everything we make is original design. I get my inspiration from so many different places. This bird grill, I call it Bye Bye Birdie, but this was a challenge for me. It was very out of the box. The designer wanted me to do something very ornate for an English room. He was very fancy room he was designing. And so here we have birds. So what you just saw were grills, and we also make big metal panels, architectural panels, these are called. And I want you to remember this photo here because in the end, I'm going to show you the disaster that happened with this project. This was my first commercial project, so it was designed for a commercial space, and we'll get back to this later. Here is an abstracted map of Oakland in a 1/4" brass. And this pattern is called Mizu, and I like to show this pattern because this was sort of out there idea I had. This is not a good pattern for ventilation because you can see there's so much positive space. But I was really trying to push the limits here in what could I achieve in metal. I wanted to create a design that was organic and flowing and had movement. And so I designed this to be backlighted, and I had no idea if people would like it, but they did. This is a restaurant in a very hip area of Oakland. If you're ever out here, please come try it. This is Tanya Holland. She's a celebrity chef and makes amazing fried chicken and waffles. Really low calorie treats. But there are privacy panels. Okay, part 2. This is where I want to dive in. This is a project from start to finish. Marissa, I think you were just starting here when we started this project, right?
Yes, this was one of my first projects that I did from start to finish. So yes, it's a great story. A lot of work goes into it, but it feels good.
Right. So you'll see this is me taking my portfolio case to a presentation. It looks so light and easy. This is after many, many appointments of refining it down because I started with an 80-pound bag of metal. So the first step in what we do is we have to go out and get the projects. To run a small company, to run any company, you need to make money. And to make money, you need to have projects you need to sell. So how do you do that? You make appointments. You have to put yourself out there. Nobody's ever heard of Modern Metal or my product. How do you get in? So Marissa, the getting in the door to get the project required a lot of work. Marissa, you spent a lot of time making phone calls.
Yes, one of my first tasks when I started with Annie was just spending hours a day making cold calls, which, you know, is as boring as it sounds. But it's a great, you know, accomplishment after you've made 20 calls and you get one meeting, and then we get to lug all our stuff there like Annie is in this photo, and we get to present to them. So,
and then so basically we sell on the project, and then in the next couple slides you're going to see how I sort of personally talk to the architects. I make this a very personal process. I'm still selling them on the idea. Why do you want to use our product? What is it? So that's the first step in a project for us. And the next step is the fun part. This is the creative process. And I always start all of my projects, my designs by hand, by painting, by drawing. It instantly relaxes me, first of all, and it's a way for me to get my hand in the designs. Everything ends up being vectorized and computerized to actually get it laser cut, but I feel it's important to do this. We then take our designs and put them on storyboards. Marissa is very involved in this process.
yes, one of my favorite parts of the job is the storyboard. So you can see here, we just take a lot of clippings from the internet, magazines, anything we find. This one, as Annie mentioned, she started out by painting it, so a lot of linear images. But most recently, I'll share with you, we had a client who wanted a panel to resemble bamboo, so they didn't have to have the upkeep of actual bamboo in their backyard as privacy. So I just printed out a whole bunch of images. I started with a simple Google search for bamboo and found other images of just greenery and outdoors, and just to help Annie, you know, just to spark her creativity with what she could do with metal to resemble whatever the client is asking for.
So back to this project. This project was called the Hagenberger Project. It's on Hagenberger Road in Oakland. This is a big lobby of a very big commercial building. And the architects wanted to shield a Bank of America, the bank that was on the side of the building. And so they said, they came to me and they said, Annie, we want you to design some panels that'll cover up the bank. So like as Marissa said, I got pictures of the interior. I started working. I had inspiration, which you'll see shortly. But really important part of this job, of any job, I think, is listening to your customer. You have to listen and see what they want. So, you know, I'm looking at their architectural plans. I'm looking and seeing how linear it is. I'm trying to see how a design I could do could complement what they've already done and also satisfy their needs. So it's very important to remember that, listening to your client. And sometimes that's hard as a creative person because you're bursting with your own ideas and you want to do what you want to do, but you have to listen to your client. So that's something you'll experience when you get into the working world a bit more. So here we are with our storyboards. This is the pitch. We still don't have the project. We have them saying that the architect is on board, but then you still have to get everybody else on board. There are contractors, there are developers, there are people that are paying for it. And so we need to sell them on this. And this sample that you see right there, I purposely showed you this slide because here I don't have the project yet, but it cost us, I think, $450 to make that sample. So we're investing money. And for a small company, that's a big deal. You know, it's a big decision. Like, are we going to spend $500 on this sample and we might not even get the project? The answer is yes. So we do that. And here you can see us trying to sell the process to the boys. I love this photo because we're, you know, convincing our clients, why do they need to spend more money on a beautifully designed panel when they can just, you know, put up whatever kind of screen it is, something generic? Why do they want to invest in our time and our product?
And as Annie mentioned, that's one thing I really learned in this position is she said, when you're a creative person, you're just bursting with creativity. And so we really have to figure out how to translate that into words to convey to these construction people and just, you know, measurement minded people what they can do with metal in place of these just ugly brown curtains and things like that, which is another just thing to learn when you're on the job.
And here you're about to see this next video clip shows my actual inspiration for this design. I was lucky enough with this. This was a dream job because the architect said, in terms of design, I have carte blanche, so I could do whatever I wanted. So I was very excited. So that was my inspiration. That was my inspiration for this project. It was a light show that I saw in Atlanta, and it was one of the most spectacular moments for me visually. And I wanted to capture that feeling of falling light, of shooting light, flickering. How can I do that in metal? And how can I still achieve the level of privacy that this client wanted in order to shield the ugly bank? So this is the design that I came up with. The white areas that you see are the apertures and where light will come in.
And on this next slide here, we have a video of you. So that's the creative process. And then Annie put it into a drawing and everything like that. And then we actually have to cut it out in metal. So on the next video, you'll see it actually being cut. Well, actually a different panel being cut from another project, but same process. And all of our panels are laser cut. And just for reference, I'm sitting in my room right now, and if a laser cutter machine was in here, it would take up the entire room. They're huge machines. They do amazing things, and I've seen them maybe 2 or 3 times now. It's shocking to me how huge they are every time, but they're an amazing product and they cut really well. So here we go.
So now you've seen a little bit of how we get the job, our creative process, manufacturing, and now comes installation. So here, Marissa and we went to the installation for the Hagenberger project, and we were so happy to be there, but this is what happened right before, leading up to that day. The panels arrived in this crate like this, and they all spilled out of the crate and were completely scratched and destroyed. This is a couple days before installation, so you can imagine how upsetting this was. I mean, it was a complete crisis. And I'm showing this because this had a silver lining. I found a powder coater here locally, close to Hagenberger Road, who saved me. He was amazing and he saved the day. He stripped and recoated all of the panels and corrected them. And we did this all before installation day. And in fact, I don't know if the client ever knew what happened. So we shield, as a small company, you are kind of an intermediary between the client and what happens, the manufacturing and everything else. So back to installation. We got to, it's nice to have the luxury of being able to go to a job site. And here you can see I'm checking, it's very complicated, have to make sure each panel is in the right place. You're gonna see on the next 2 slides how we are overseeing that. I always feel cool like working with the boys, bossing them around.
Yes, it's always a fun day to go see these install.
That's right. And the next one here. There you go. They're quite heavy, so they had to install them. And you can see here how there's more light at the top coming in. So when you see the finished design, you'll notice what I did to make that work with our design. Here's a slide that I like to move quickly past. This is me noticing that the screws were slightly uneven. That means we cut holes that were slightly off. I was also upset to see that the screws lost their paint. As it turns out, I learned that all screws lose their paint when you screw them in. So you go back and touch them up. But again, don't tell. And lastly, we just want you to see the glimpse of the inspiration and then the finished product, the install. You can see the way it worked. I do think that my design goal was achieved here. I feel like there's movement. It kind of reflects flickering light. In the photo on the right side, that's actually one of my favorite photos because I don't know if you're all familiar with Alfred Hitchcock movies, how he always has a cameo in his movies. Well, that's my Hitchcock moment. That's the designer, me walking by outside the bank. And you can also see that the apertures are more condensed at the top. So that was to let more light in from the top and flow down as though the light is falling. So there you go. That's our project from start to finish. The last part is, I pretty much think that this photo sums it all up, what it means to be running a company, running a business on your own, starting up. This is me chasing down a UPS truck, which I do probably 2 times a week. I'm often throwing my kids in the car and finding the mailman to get a package out. So, you know, we're titling this section, The Glamour and Grit of Entrepreneurship.
Annie is literally running a business, running to get these shipments out.
Now, we want to highlight how many people we are working with. Although there are just 3 of us working here full time, these are all the people that we work with, that we pay behind the scenes, and they're all very important. And in fact, at one point in my business, and this was a point I wanted to make to you, trust your gut. I'm still learning to do that, but it took me a while. Because at one point I found myself every minute of the day, I was paying somebody, talking to a graphic designer, getting their opinion, talking to finishers, everybody, and I'm paying. And I needed to kind of regroup and say, well, Annie, what do you want? What do you like? So it's important to use people, but also to be grounded and trust your gut. And Marissa, we have a video, right?
Yeah, so in this next video, we'll just kind of emphasize exactly what Annie mentioned here. There's so many people behind the scenes, so let's just take a look at that in video form.
Even from the dorky accountant, right? I'm Lisa Thorne with New Insight Accounting. Well, I majored in accounting in college. I went to UCSB, University of California, Santa Barbara.
Hi, I'm Kinsey. I am the social media coordinator for Modern Metal. So right now I'm a sophomore at Monterey Peninsula College, and I'm getting my AA degree in the spring for social sciences. And then I want to transfer into either media communications or journalism.
One friend needed help with their small nonprofit doing bookkeeping. I said, okay, I'll give that a try. And I just really loved it. And it just decided to keep on taking small clients.
I interned for another company and helped them with their social media. So Annie was looking for someone, so Marissa reached out, and I love the company and working with Annie and Marissa a lot.
So here I'm going to show you the many hats we wear running a small business. Most companies have, you know, beautiful sampling departments and marketing departments and shipping and receiving departments, but I'll show you the way we do it here. Also, just to emphasize all the paths that you might take now as students and as you launch into the professional world, is that please know that anything that you do will be useful. Anything, even if you're in an inventory, you know, basement sorting out samples. Here, this is my daughter. She's our sample department right now. But just that anything you do, you're going to learn, and it's going to be valuable to you. And as I was hiring people to run my business, to join me on the team, it was very important to me that they are adaptable. And you will see in this last section how adaptable everybody is. It's good to be open-minded and adaptable and be willing to accept the grit with the glamour. These samples are what we send out to people to get our jobs. An interior designer or an architect might call us and say, we have a presentation tomorrow, we need a sample. And so these are metal. And they cost me about $50 for each one to make. So they're quite expensive. It's an investment, but they're absolutely necessary. Another issue to bring up here is somebody might not think about it in a large company. If you get a sample request, you just slap it in the FedEx envelope and get it out, right? Well, here I'm thinking, well, to overnight to FedEx, overnight for early AM delivery could cost $45. So do you dare tell the designer that we ship you know, 2-day mail, and if they want it expedited, they need to give us their FedEx account? That's kind of stressful when you're a new company because you don't want to lose the job. So there are constant decisions and choices like that.
Right, and as Annie mentioned, any sort of tasks that you do will be helpful in any sort of career, even if you're in a warehouse, just those skills of organization, because here you see all the unpacking that we do, but then after that, you know, it's tracking all those samples, the colors, the materials, what we have, what's out, everything like that. And you would use that. Obviously, we use it. I used to work in fashion, same thing there, and textiles, everything like that. And on another note, in terms of being flexible, also, as Annie mentioned, in our next slide, we'll have just a short fun video for you showing some of the things that I did when I first started and that we all do when you're at a large company. It's another thing you wouldn't think about, but it kind of shows our quick runs to IKEA and organizing, as Emma's doing in this slide here, the things that the roles we all take on at a small company.
That's our studio operations. And this is our catering department, Marissa again. Here we are going to a presentation, a lunch and learn in San Francisco. You know, you park on the streets of San Francisco. I'm lugging all the metal and presentation boards. We're trying to look nice and we're carrying platters of food. Did we call a caterer like most companies can do? No, we did it ourselves. So you have to always keep budget in mind when you're a small company, but we have fun doing this. Right, Marissa?
Yeah. Yes, always fun, you know, with our team and everything like that, and keeping budget in mind. In addition, you know, when we're doing these sort of catering things, we have to, you know, arrive a little bit earlier and set up the table to make this beautiful presentation, and that just takes extra time, and time is money. So it's just organizing kind of which ones are worth it, even though, you know, they're all worth it in the end when they're connections, but just which ones will benefit us most.
And here you get an idea of our meetings, you know, what we're presenting, we're selling our product to clients. It's really fun. It's fun to be the promoter of your own creativity. I also am the shipping and receiving department. And this next photo is I'm at a truck yard and I had a meeting, a big presentation for a huge, my biggest project yet. And the presentation was starting, and this shipping company lost my crate, my expensive sample. And the meeting was starting, and they said they couldn't find it anywhere in the warehouse. So I literally got in my car, I went to the warehouse, and I found it myself. And I loaded it into my car and ran to the meeting, and we got the job. So it had a happy ending. And this next slide, I don't think it needs any kind of description. This is Susan sorting. She's our IT department. We'll leave it at that.
Creative people trying to do tech.
That's right. This is we visit the manufacturers as often as we can. I think it's really important. It's important to me in running this business that the people that I work with, I know, and I have a personal relationship with. And I want to know who I'm working with, and I want to see where it's getting made and make sure it's all up to the standards that and philosophies we believe in as a company. This might be one of my favorite photos because this is me with the guys, boys in Mississippi. And I am inspecting them. This is my quality control, and I am tough. And when I'm there, they dread it when I come because I send things back all the time. There's a nick here, there's this here. But it's really wonderful to be able to be involved on this level. And because we're a small company, I can't do this for every single job, but those that I can be there for, I am. I had to train these laser cutters, people that aren't used to the clientele that we work with, very high end, very detail driven architects and designers. And so I tell them, these metal panels you're sending have to be wrapped like baby Mona Lisas, literally. Another aspect of what we do is marketing. We are our own marketing department right now. We're working on branding ourselves, creating an image. We are hoping people will stay awake during our presentations. So we thought M&Ms were a cute idea. They make friends and a little bit of a sugar rush. And you know, the challenge is always like, how can we make metal interesting and exciting? So this was one idea we had.
And just another reference to being a small company. These were all laid out in our living room table in my house, just, you know, the boxes, the stickers, and I stuck every single one on. I have the M&Ms with labels on them, so no one else in my house, it said like, these are for modern metal, do not eat. So just another, you know, the glamour of being a small company.
Yeah, I hope that someday I'm not knowing the custom designer at the M&M factory so well.
For now, it's working for us, though.
That's right. So PR is very important. It's a big part of any company. We do it all ourselves. And right now we can't afford to hire an amazing, marketing agency to take on all our PR and marketing. So what I do is I pay a consultant and I hire her for an hour every other week. And she is teaching me how to pitch myself to the magazines. And, the silver lining in this is that I'm learning how to do it myself so that the day I can afford to have somebody else do it for me, I will appreciate what they're doing that much more. And I'm getting a chance to, meet editors and form relationships. And I feel very lucky for the press we've gotten. It's thrilling. It's thrilling to see your own designs in print. So this next section is the most important. We have a few minutes left. These are the mistakes. This project literally, I didn't have a heart attack, but something close. This was my first project. It was in New York City. Remember the picture that I told you to remember at the beginning with the hanging panels? This is that project. It is a showroom, a mattress bedding showroom on the 3rd floor in Manhattan, and they wanted white glove delivery. It was a crate that was 2,000 pounds, and I was anxiously awaiting the pictures, and I got this photo, and they said, "What kind of company is this? There's something wrong with your panels." And I literally stopped breathing, and I'm like, oh my God, there is something wrong with these panels. Like, they're bowed. What's wrong? So complete freak out section, talking to structural engineers, talking to lawyers, talking to every expert there was, only to find out that they had installed it improperly. And it turned out to be just fine. All it needed was the frame as originally planned, and they straightened up like that. I learned. This is that big project that I went to the truck stop, the loading dock to find the sample. So this is a huge building. It's 57 panels here in California, Menlo Park, and 57 panels on the project, but only 55 showed up. So that's a disaster. Who's responsible? I have it traced from the manufacturer to the powder coater, from the powder coater to the site. It's lost. Who pays for it? What do you do? So I quickly, of course, made 2 new panels. The customer is always right. And, but it's a challenge and it's stressful. We also needed to figure out how to label 57 panels. They are all different. Even though they look the same, they are engineered slightly differently to make the design repeat. So here we had to figure out the labeling system, etched it on the laser cutter softly, then the powder coater would do the labels. But that kept me up at night too.
And this is an example of kind of learning by doing in an industry that you didn't think you would be in, because we didn't even think about labeling these panels. Obviously they had to be labeled somehow, but when we first started the project, it wasn't top of mind. So kind of having those experts in those fields of knowing how to label and where to label and how to get it to the powder coater, that was all very interesting, and we learned a lot in this project.
That's right. This next disaster that you're going to see, you can actually see it, the beautiful project installed. It's at Newark Airport in a very popular coffee shop. And when they received these panels, the panels were 1/8 of an inch too large all around. And the cabinet maker had made the beautiful like mahogany wooden panels. What we didn't realize is when we bent the metal's 1/8 of an inch thick, it added 1/8 of an inch on. So totally stressful again. But what happened here is upon receipt, the client decided to just cut our metal, cut 1/8 of an inch off, which presented a lot of different issues. You're exposing, they manipulated our product. So who is liable if it rusts? That's a lot of calls to lawyers. That's a lot of talking to the client and making sure everybody is happy. In the end, everybody's happy. It's beautiful, but it's these things all cost a lot of money and a lot of anxiety. And right, Marissa?
Yes.
And metal is unforgiving. That's one of my main challenges, is designing in such an unforgiving material. It is not like a textile where you can just take out a few strands of the weft and make it the right size. And lastly, I wanted to close out by saying, in running a small business on your own, I am working all the time, 24/7. I am thinking about it at night. And here I am designing on an airplane. If you remember the grill that I showed you earlier of the birds, this is where that design was drawn. It was on the airplane, and I even used the window, to trace my design and do all that. So could you on a plane? And we're gonna leave some time for you to ask questions now. We're so happy that you joined us and listening to our presentation. And after this is done, we'd love it if you could follow us on Instagram, and we can keep in touch with you.
Great, thank you both so much for sharing. Students, we're gonna turn over to Q&A. Just a reminder, Annie and Marissa are joining us from Northern California, from Oakland, correct?
Correct.
Great. Annie, can you tell us some differences in transitioning from textiles to metal? What are some of the differences in working with those various mediums?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, first of all, as I just mentioned, working in textiles is very forgiving. You're building the structure of a fabric, of a woven, and you're literally building it, and you're as you're designing, you're taking into account that structure. Color is tricky in a woven textile because you're blending colors together. So, you know, your color eye thinks differently when you're designing a fabric. In metal, the structure it's just metal, and you're just cutting pieces out of metal. So I had to really train myself, and I'm still training myself, how to think in designing in metal, just positive, negative space only. And there have been many times where I do this amazing design and I'm so excited, and my husband looks at it, who's a scientist, and he says, you know, that'll fall apart, because like all the pieces will fall out. So it has taken me a while, but one thing that I do that I think is special is I think as a textile designer. So when I'm designing in metal, I really try to think as a textile designer to keep my designs fluid and unique, and then I translate them and try to make them work in metal, which I think leads to more interesting designs for me.
That's great. Did you start off using a plasma cutter and move to laser cutting, or you've been using a laser the whole time?
I've been using a laser the whole time. We can also use a water jet cutter, which is better for thicker materials. I mean, it's amazing. With a water jet, you can cut like big pieces of cement, which I have not done yet, but all laser cut right now.
How fleshed out were the products and ideas before attempting to put yourself out there before clients?
Before clients. Well, the product itself, to get to the point where I went out to clients, that took me 2 years, really 2 years of like learning about cut metal. I mean, I didn't even know the term laser cut. So just to get to that point where I had something to show, that took 2 years. But as far as developing my designs, how developed are they and fleshed out are my ideas before I present them to a client? It's both. There are some where they are my finished designs are already thought out and they're working, they're cut in metal and they're to be displayed. But there are other projects that I do and designs that are in work where it's a collaboration with the client, the customer, and we're working together to make it work. In fact, this afternoon, I'm drawing some bamboo designs out, and I don't know yet if it's going to work in metal. And so it's not quite fleshed out.
And I think that if I could just chime in really quick, I think that also largely depends on who we're selling the product to. So if it's going to another designer, we know that they might have a lot of input and other ideas. And if it's going straight to a client, then we try to make it as like seamless as the process can be and give them kind of a almost finished design on paper before we even start, so that they can just decide and we can go from there.
Absolutely, that makes sense. Does Modern Metal design the installation apparatuses as well?
We do not. And this is sort of the question that comes up every single day. I believe strongly in doing what I'm good at and hiring other people to do what they're good at. I am not good at installation. I am not good at engineering. So, but it's a catch. Like, you know, you need to be able to sort of offer a package deal to somebody that needs that. We try to source that aspect of the project out to engineers and contractors who are experts in installation, but we do our best to guide our clients in the right direction.
What would you say is the most out-of-the-box project your team has worked on?
Ooh, Marissa, what do you think?
Immediately I thought of the birds, but maybe just because we just saw that image, but I think that was kind of just the most tricky, at least, maybe not out of the box, but the most tricky because it's not something we typically do. Like I feel like we typically stick to like geometric shapes and things that are symmetrical and such. So having an actual creature in the metal, you know, and an actual like artwork piece was something that was really different and really fun.
Yeah, I started that project and I said, I'm not an illustrator, I don't do birds, you know, but animals. But it was really good to be pushed. And that was listening to the designer, who's actually a very famous designer. And he wanted the birds. And I said, I knew it. I knew he was going to want the birds. So we did the birds. So that was pretty much out of the box for me.
That's great. Thank you. You mentioned some of the various vendors that you work with, including the CAD designer. What do you work with them specifically for?
Well, I hire a CAD designer to translate my designs from my Point Carré, my textile design program, into vector so that the laser cutter can read them. So I have one person that does that just literally translates into vector. In fact, his name is Farouk Shah, and he is in Islamabad, Pakistan right now. That's where he lives. So talk about a small world. It's pretty amazing. And I have many different CAD drawers, but he is one of them. So that's one example of a CAD person. Another example is a renderer. Somebody like, we haven't done a project yet that is on round columns, but we want to be able to advertise that we do round columns, or can. I think we can. So we're going to have a renderer, a CAD renderer, do an image for us. So that is, I use our graphic designer for that.
It's exciting. What, if any, challenges do doing a round surface as opposed to a flat present?
Well, the first challenge is that I've never done it. The second challenge is that the radius has to be exact. And again, metal is not a forgiving material. I'm actually working on a project now that we don't have the project yet, but it's a huge roof of a beautiful building in Los Angeles, and it's curved. So I hired an engineer to help figure out what radius would we need, how thin can the metal be to bend. These are challenges that I have to think about. And so what I do is I hire out, I consult with the experts to see what to do. And that's why it's really important to, I'm constantly vetting and making sure that the people I work with know what they're doing and that I trust them.
Absolutely.
It's my name.
As a business owner, what is the most surprising thing you've learned?
Well, as a business owner, the most surprising thing I've learned that is, and all of you who are watching this are probably very creative, is that there is so much business part to it. It's probably, for me, it's probably 90% business running, paperwork, accounting, forms, advertising, all these other aspects to it. And the creative part, I mean, we're all creative people, so you're constantly thinking creatively and bringing creativity into those fields. But it's surprising me that very little of my time is actually spent designing and drawing. And when I do, it's a treat. I think all of you will see when you start your first job, second jobs, third jobs, that you're not going to be doing all the design work. My first job was, I was in charge of buttons at a apparel company in Boston, and I was the button lady, and I learned to dye buttons different colors, and I met with the button reps. So, you will learn that in a business, it's not all design, even if you're a designer.
Right. How do you protect the intellectual property of your patterns?
I copyright all my patterns. This is a good question and pertinent to Be Original Americas. I copyright my designs. I have been knocked off, which is very, very, I'll say flattering, but it's really upsetting. And so I copyright them, and that's all I can do, really. Yeah.
We'd love to hear from each of you what you would consider the 3 most important skills or traits to have in a small business.
Marissa, do you want to start with that one?
Let's see. I think the first word that came to mind is flexibility, which we kind of touched on in the presentation, but just knowing that, and as Annie just mentioned in the previous question, a lot of it is business, even for me, even though I'm not the head of everything, but just every little thing like copywriting, it just all has to be very legal, obviously, and legalities to make sure that we're covered for these designs. And then when it comes to like sick time and all those little things, so flexibility, and then let's see, 2 other flexibility, and then I would say being open-minded, just as we touched on as well, with working with so many different types of people. I think that you're kind of prepared to work with those other creative people who think like you, but knowing that not everyone will think like you or organize things the same way as you do. and even like Farouk in another country even speak the same language as you, although he does speak English, but you know, there's always some sort of barrier there. So being open-minded, and then the last thing, I guess just always staying creative would be just a skill that we all have, but always making sure that you're brushing up on that skill for when, you know, we have to create a storyboard, or even creatively figuring out how to organize our samples or carry our samples to a meeting, everything like that. So yeah, flexibility, open-minded, and creative.
And I would say, my first instinct was to say, trust your gut. But along with that, the second aspect is faking it till you make it, because it's really hard when you're running your own company. I mean, you're your own biggest fan, but you sometimes have to fake it until you make it. Like, you have to go in and say, you know, this is fantastic and you need this product and it works and everything, even if you're shaking inside. So you have to exude a certain amount of confidence. And I would say, I see this even in my employees. You know, I know sometimes I ask Marissa or Susan, you know, can you make a video for YouTube, or do you know how to do this thing? And Marissa knows me well enough now that she says, sure, no problem. And I don't know if she really knows how to do it or not, but she does it and she takes it and she goes with it. So I would say, you know, being the traits that Marissa hit on, and as well as trusting your gut, but knowing how to fake it till you make it.
That's great. Can you tell us a little bit more of the different types of metals and finishes that you work with?
Sure. We work with our most common metal, and the most affordable metal is steel. It's just cold rolled steel. And then we also have brass and aluminum. Brass is really hot right now. Everybody wants brass until they find out how much it costs. Brass is 3 times as expensive as steel. It's just the price of the metal. And so what we're doing right now is we've come up with our own, we call it badass brass, and it's fake brass. It's powder coated steel to emulate brass, which a lot of designers are really liking because it's budget friendly. So we do polishes, we do satins. When you have a brass or a bronze that you've heard the term oil rubbed bronze, these go to a special finisher. They are dipped in a acid bath to take out ferrous, and they are literally hand rubbed. So it is a very hands-on process. There is manufacturing and machinery involved, but there are also artisans involved.
What is the typical timeline on a project from design conception to installation?
Well, I leave 4 to 6 weeks for manufacturing. From the time that the customer signs off on the design, it's 4 to 6 weeks to delivery. I like to leave 2 weeks for design development so that you have a lot of back and forth with the designer, and you have to leave time to send it off to your CAD drawers to draw and then present, and back and forth. So I guess 8 weeks, 8 to 10 weeks total.
Since, as you mentioned, metal is an unforgiving material, have you ever had a design idea where metal was not the best option to use? And if so, what material did you use instead? If not, how did you go against the material to create and execute your design?
I have had a lot of designs where metal may not be the right material, and those all just went right in the trash can because they didn't hold together. I guess I can't hold it up here, but I have a design that has lots of little, it's called Hasu. It's the companion to Mizu. Mizu, I showed you, was that big floral in the picture with the chair, and it had less opening. So I designed Hasu to accompany it, sort of like a textile, a companion fabric, companion design. So it would have more open spaces, but I mean, yeah, more ventilation. But when we went to cut it, the laser cutters absolutely hate me for this design because it is so intricate. I mean, it's very, very ornate and detailed. And it does work, but it took a lot of trials and errors. I have never gone from a different material, from metal to a different material, or from a different material into metal. I've had a lot of requests for different materials that just won't work. but it's pretty cool. We can laser cut rubber and cork, lots of things. I wanted to do a design in cork, but then realized it would kind of like crumble at the edges. So, but we're all for experimentation. Come to us with your ideas.
That's great. Unfortunately, I think we're just out of time for today, but I do have one final question, and I'd love to hear from each of you. Marissa, maybe we could start with you on any final words of wisdom or advice for the students tuning in today.
Yes, I think basically, as we kind of overall talked about in the presentation, I mean, I just recently graduated from college 4 years ago now, maybe 3. Just knowing that your skills, like Annie said, can be used for anything. I went to school, I actually started as, I thought I wanted to be a teacher, and then I switched to Spanish as my major, and then finally landed on fashion, and then ended up in modern metal. So it can take you all sorts of places. Life will take you all sorts of places, but just know that all the skills you've learned will be good for anything you do, as long as you're passionate about it and hardworking.
Yes, I'm going to add on to that. I think that I was thinking about it this morning, what's the main message that I want to send to all of you? And I think it's the same message I give to my own girls who are college age, is that this is the time to explore and to try out many, many different paths, and that there isn't one bad path. I mean, you can go down one track and end up in another, and life is so long. And if you do want to start your own company one day, this gave you a taste of that, but any experience you get before will help you, no matter what it is. Even if you think it's the absolute lamest job in the world, it will help you. So I'm so excited to see what you all end up doing.
All great advice. Thank you. Annie, Marissa, I want to say a huge thank you for giving us this incredible behind the scenes look at the world of modern metal. We very much appreciate your taking the time. Students, thank you so much for joining us today. If you'd like to learn more about modern metal, you can visit their website, modmetaldesigns.com, or their Instagram, Modern Metal Designs. If you'd like to learn more about The Original Americas, you can visit our website, theoriginalamerica's.com, or our Instagram at TheOriginalUSA. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.